The cry no one answered. The city of Verlian was loud. It was always loud. Stone streets rang with the rhythm of trade, cart wheels grinding over cobbles, merchants shouting prices, coins clinking, and voices weaving together into a constant hum of life. Colorful banners fluttered from high balconies, perfumed smoke curled through the air, and laughter rose from taverns even before midday. It was a city of prosperity, a city of power, a city that prided itself on progress. And yet, beneath that polished surface, something rotten lingered. Something people chose not to see. Because it was easier that way. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting that their prosperity had a cost. And not all of them were willing to pay it. The sound came first. Not loud, not sudden, but heavy, slow. Each step landed like a distant drumbeat, deep and deliberate. The ground trembled ever so slightly beneath the weight of it, just enough for those paying attention to notice. The rhythm didn't belong. It didn't match the lively chaos of the market. It cut through it. And one by one, voices faltered. Heads turned. The sound grew closer, heavier, until the crowd began to part, not out of courtesy but instinct. Because something ancient was approaching. Something that did not belong in chains. She emerged from the far end of the street. Massive, towering, a dragon. Once she must have been magnificent. Even now, even broken as she was, that truth could not be completely hidden. Her body was vast, powerful, built for flight and flame. Her wings, though folded tightly against her sides, still carried the shape of storms. Her horns curved back like polished blades, elegant and deadly. But time and cruelty had stripped away her glory. Her scales, once a deep, vibrant crimson, were now dulled and cracked, their shine replaced with dust and dried blood. Some were missing entirely, leaving patches of raw flesh beneath. Old scars crossed her body in jagged lines, each one a story of violence endured. And around her neck, an iron collars, thick, heavy, covered in glowing runes. Each symbol pulsed faintly, a soft, sickly light that flickered with every step she took. Control, binding, obedience. The chains attached to it dragged behind her, scraping loudly against the stone, a harsh, grating sound that followed her like a reminder. She did not lift her head. She did not roar. She did not even look at the people. She simply walked, slowly, carefully, as if each step required more strength than she had left. The market fell silent. Not completely, but enough. The laughter died first. Then the shouting. Then even the merchants lowered their voices, as if speaking too loudly might draw her attention. Not that she seemed capable of giving it. She moved like something hollow. Something emptied out. And that was worse than fear. Because fear meant danger. This was something else. Well, she's back. The whisper passed through the crowd. Again, she worked yesterday, didn't she? They never stop her. Why would they? She doesn't complain. Dragons don't complain. That last sentence drew a few uneasy looks. Because it wasn't true. Not anymore. She stopped, right in the center of the market, where the streets crossed and the largest stalls stood, where the wealth of Verlian was most visible, where the merchants wore fine silks and spoke in confident tones, where power gathered. Slowly, she lowered herself, not collapsing, not falling, but kneeling, a deliberate act, careful, controlled, humble. The impact still cracked the stone beneath her weight. The sound echoed, and silence followed. Deep, uncomfortable. When she spoke, it was quiet, far too quiet for something her size. Her voice did not roar. It did not shake the sky. It did not command attention. It simply existed. Low, rough, worn thin by exhaustion. I only ask for my wages. The words drifted across the square, fragile despite their weight. My children are starving. The reaction was immediate. Laughter, not everyone's, but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to hurt. A merchant near the front, fat, well-dressed, rings gleaming on every finger, snorted loudly. "You've already been paid, beast," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "Don't start this again." The dragon did not move. "I have not received my full payment," she said. Her tone did not change. No angers, no challenge, just a fact. Another voice joined in. "Oh, listen to her," a woman scoffed. "Now they're negotiating contracts." "They always were," someone muttered. "Not like this." The merchant stepped forward, clearly irritated. "You were fed," he said sharply. "You were housed, you were given everything you need to work." "I was promised wages," the dragon replied. "You were given enough." "It was not enough." Her head lowered further. "I have not eaten in 6 days." That drew a pause. A real one. Because that was harder to laugh at. 6 days. Even a human would struggle. For a dragon, it was unthinkable. The merchant's expression tightened. "You expect us to believe that," he snapped. "You eat more in a day than a village does in a week." "I have not eaten," she repeated. And this time, something in her voice shifted. Not stronger, not louder, but heavier, as if each word carried something beneath it. Something they did not want to examine. "They withhold her rations," someone whispered from the edge of the crowd. "Quiet," another hissed. The merchant ignored it. "Even if that were true," he said, "it's not my concern. You completed your work, you were compensated." "I was promised more," she said. "For what?" "For my labors." A pause. Then, "For my children." That word landed differently. It moved through the crowd in a ripple. Children. Hatchlings. Not just a beast. Not just a tool. A mother. "They're her problems," the merchant said coldly. "They will die." The words were simple. Vlad. But they struck harder than anything else she had said. "They will die if I do not bring them food." Silence spread. Not because they cared, but because now it was harder to pretend. A guard shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should just." "Don't be ridiculous," the merchant cut him off. "If we give in once, they'll all start making demands." "They already do," someone muttered. The dragon did not look up. "I carried your caravans across the desert," she said. Her voice remained quiet, but it did not waver. "I guarded your ships from raiders. I worked through injury, through exhaustion, through hunger." No one interrupted. "I fulfilled every order." A pause. Then, "I ask only for what was promised." The merchant's patience snapped. "You ask too much." "I ask what is mine." "You are a dragon," he said sharply. "You are property." The word hung in the air. Heavy, ugly, final. The dragon did not respond immediately. For a long moment, she said nothing, did nothing, just knelt there, still, silent. Then, very slowly, she bowed her head even lower. "I am a worker," she said. The simplicity of it unsettled more than defiance ever could. The crack of the whip shattered the silence. It came without warnings. A sharp, violent sound that split the air like lightning. The strike landed across her shoulder. Hard, brutal, scales shattered. Blood followed. She flinched. That, that was what broke something in the crowd. Not the blood, not the violence, but the flinch. A dragon, a creature of fire and storm. Flinched. "Back to work," the overseer barked, stepping forward. His voice carried authority, harsh and unyielding. "You're not here to beg." The dragon trembled. Barely noticeable, but real. "I cannot work," she said. Another crack. The whip struck again. "I did not ask," the overseer replied. "I cannot work," she repeated, her voice faltering for the first time, "until I feed them." The overseer's expression hardened. "That is not my concern. It is mine." The voice came from the edge of the crowd. Calm, clear, humans, and everything. Stopped. Heads turned. The crowd shifted. Because that tone, that kind of interruption, did not belong here. A man stepped forward. He was unremarkable. At first glance, no armors, no insignia, no visible power. Just simple travel-worn clothes, dust on his boots, a pack slung over one shoulder. He could have been anyone's. A merchant, a laborer, a passerby. Except, he did not look afraid. He walked through the crowd as if it would move. And it did. Not because of force, but because of something harder to name. He stopped a few paces from the dragon, from the overseer, from the whip still raised in the air. Enough, he said. Not loudly, but it carried. The overseer turned slowly. And who are you? The man didn't answer immediately. His gaze moved instead. Up, over the dragon's wounded shoulder. The blood, the collar, the chains. Then, back to the overseer. Someone who doesn't look away. Silence fell. Deep, dangerous. And for the first time that day, the dragon lifted her head. Just a little. Just enough. To see him. The price of defiance. Silence held the square. It was no longer the casual quiet of curiosity, nor the uneasy hush of discomfort. This silence was sharp, fragile, the kind that could shatter at any moment. And everyone knew it. The man stood there, between the overseer and the dragon, between power and suffering, between what was accepted and what was right. The overseer studied him carefully now. Not dismissively, not with amusement, but with calculation. You shouldn't be here, he said at last. The man's expression didn't change. Neither should this, he replied, nodding slightly toward the dragon. A murmur spread through the crowd. Soft, dangerous, because now people were listening. The overseer noticed it too, and his irritation sharpened. This is guild business, he said, his voice rising just enough to carry. It has nothing to do with you. The man tilted his head slightly. That's convenient, he said, so long as no one looks too closely. A few people shifted. Others looked away. Because they knew. They all knew. The overseer's grip tightened on the whip. You're interfering with lawful operations. The man's gaze didn't waver. Then your law needs fixing. That did it. The air snapped. The overseer moved first. The whip cracked. Vast, violent. A strike meant to end the conversation. But it never landed. The man stepped forward. Not back. Forward. His hand shot out and caught the whip mid-strike. The sound still echoed, but not against flesh. Against resistance. Leather pulled tight. Tension stretched between them. The overseer froze. Just for a second. Just long enough. Because no one caught a strike like that. Not barehanded. Not without magic. Blood began to drip from the man's palm. Slow, steady, bright against the dusty stone. But he didn't let go. Release it, the overseer said, his voice low now. Controlled. Dangerous. No, the word was quiet. But absolute. The man pulled. Hard. The overseer stumbled forward a step, caught off guard by the sudden force. The whip slackened. The balance shifted. And the crowd saw it. This wasn't bravery. This wasn't foolishness. This was defiance. Raw, unapologetic, unshaken. Seize him, the overseer snapped. The guards moved instantly. Armor clanking, boots striking stone. 4 of them, then 6, then more. They surrounded the man in seconds. Weapons drawn, blades gleaming. Last chance, the overseer said, walk away. The man released the whip. Slowly, deliberately, And for a moment, it looked like he might. But then, he stepped forward again. No, the word hit harder this time. Because now, there was no misunderstanding. He wasn't leaving. The first blow came from the left. A gauntleted fist slammed into his ribs. Hard, the sound of impact echoed. He staggered, but didn't fall. The second came from behind. A strike to the back. Sharp, heavy. He dropped to one knee. The crowd flinched. Not because of the violence. They had seen that before. But because he didn't fight back. He didn't raise his hands. Didn't strike. Didn't resist. He just endured. The third blow hit his shoulder. The fourth his jaw. Blood sprayed. Still, he didn't retaliate. Why, someone whispered. It was a simple question. But no one answered. Because no one understood. Another strike. This one with a baton. Cracking across his back. He fell forward. Hands catching him on the stone. The dragon moved. Chains rattled violently as she shifted. Her wings tensed. Her claws dug into the ground. No, the word was soft, but it carried. The guards hesitated. Not out of fear, but confusion. Dragons didn't say that. Didn't sound like that. Stop, she said. Her voice trembled. Not with weakness, but with something deeper. Stop, she repeated, he has done nothing. The overseer scoffed. He interfered. He spoke truth. Another blow. The man gasped. But still, no resistance. He is nothing, the overseer said coldly. The dragon's head lifted slightly. Just enough. He is more than you. The words landed. Heavy. The overseer's eyes narrowed. Careful, he said, you forget your place. The dragon's gaze flickered. To the collar. To the chains. To the runes that bound her. Then back. I remember, she said quietly. Another strike. The man collapsed fully now. Breathing hard. Blood pooling beneath him. Still, he did not strike back. The overseer stepped closer. Slow. Measured. Why, he asked. The question wasn't mocking this time. It was genuine. Why protect her? The man lifted his head. Slowly, painfully, blood ran down his face. Into his eyes. But his gaze, clear, steady, because no one else will. Silence. The words spread. Through the crowd. Through the guards. Through the space between breaths. Because they were true. And truth was dangerous. The overseer exhaled slowly. Then nodded. Then you'll die for it. He raised his hand. The guards stepped back. The air changed. Magic gathered. Not subtle. Not controlled. Violent. The kind meant to kill. The kind meant to send a message. The dragon moved. Chains snapped tight. The collar flared. Runes ignited. Pain surged through her. She roared. Not in fury. In agony. The sound shattered windows. Cracked stone. Ripped through the air like a storm. The ground trembled. The guards staggered. The crowd screamed. But the collar held. It burned. Forced her down. Forced her to kneel. To submit. To obey. The overseer smiled. See, he said, even your kind knows its place. The dragon's claws dug into the stone. Deep. Cracking it. Breaking it. But she could not rise. The collar would not allow it. The man pushed himself up. Slow. Unsteady. Shaking. But he stood. No, he said. The word barely carried. But it did. She doesn't. The overseer's expression hardened. Then watch her burn with you. The magic surged. Brighter, hotter, deadlier. The air screamed. And then, enough. The word cuts through everything. Not loud, but absolute. The magic faltered. The overseer froze. The dragon stilled. The crowd turned. A figure stepped forward. Robes flowing, marked with silver thread. Symbols of authority gleaming. A magistrate. Power. Real powers. You will cease, the magistrate said. The overseer hesitated. Just for a moment. This is guild business, he said again. But weaker now. And this, the magistrate replied, is public abuse. Silence. Heavy. Final. Release her, the magistrate ordered. The overseer clenched his jaw. She is bound under contract. Release her. The words left no room. No escape. The runes flickered. Once, twice, then, they shattered. The sound was small, but it echoed like thunder. The collar cracked, split, fell, the chains followed. Heavy, lifeless, the dragon gasped, as if she had been drowning, as if she had forgotten what it meant to breathe. Power surged through her, not explosive, not violent, but returning, reclaiming. She rose, slowly, massively, terribly, beautifully. The crowd stumbled back. Because now, this was not a tool. This was a dragon. And she was free. Her gaze moved. Past the overseer. Past the guards. To him, the humans. Still standing. Barely, but standing. You bled, she said. Her voice was different now. Stronger, deeper, alive. The man gave a small smile. So did you. Silence fell again. But this time, it was not fear. Not discomfort. Not tension. Something else. Something new. Because a line had been crossed. And nothing, would ever be the same again. When dragons answer, dawn did not come gently to Verlian. It never had. The city was used to waking with noise, vendors setting up stalls, guards changing shifts, carts rattling across the stone roads. But on that day, dawn arrived in silence. A strange, unnatural silence. The kind that pressed against the skin. The kind that made people pause without knowing why. The streets were quieter than usual. Not empty, but subdued. Whispers replaced laughter. Glances replaced conversation. Because something had changed the day before. Something no one could ignore. A dragon had knelt. A human had stood. And the balance had shifted. Rumors spread like fire through dry grass. They freed her. A magistrate ordered it. The overseer was forced to comply. A human challenged the guild. A human survived. That last one lingered the longest. Because it was the least believable. The man sat at the edge of the city, near the outer walls, where stone gave way to dirt and dirt to open land. He leaned against a broken section of the wall, his breathing slow, uneven. Bandages wrapped his hands, his ribs, his shoulder. Poorly done. Self-treated. Blood had dried into the fabric. His face was bruised, his lips split, one eye swollen slightly. He looked fragile, human, and yet, he was alive. He stared out at the horizon, watching, waiting, though even he didn't seem to know for what. Behind him, the city stirred. But he did not turn. He had seen enough of it. Footsteps approached. Light, measured. He didn't move. Didn't reach for anything. Didn't prepare. You should be resting. The voice was familiar. He glanced sideways. The magistrate stood a few paces away, robes catching the early light, silver threads glinting softly. I am, the man replied. The magistrate raised an eyebrow. You call this rest? The man gave a faint smile. It's quieter out here. A pause. Then the magistrate stepped closer. Not as an authority. Not as a judge. Just a person. You caused quite a disturbance, he said. So did you, the man replied. The magistrate exhaled softly. Yes, he admitted, I did. They stood in silence for a moment. Then, you understand what you've done, the magistrate asked. The man looked back out at the horizon. Oh yes, and they won't forgive it. No, the magistrate said, they won't. Another pause. But you did it anyway. The man nodded. Why? The question was quiet. Not accusatory. Not challenging. Just genuine. The man considered it. For a moment. Then, because she asked, the magistrate frowned slightly. That's all. The man shook his head. No, he said, because no one else answered. The words settled between them. Heavy. The magistrate looked away. Back toward the city. They will come, he said. I know. And when they do. I know. The magistrate studied him. For a long moment. Then he nodded. Once. Then I hope, he said quietly, that it was worth it. The man didn't respond. Because he didn't know. Not yet. The ground trembled. Softly. At first. Then again. Stronger. The man's head lifted. The magistrate stiffened. They both turned. Toward the sky. And saw it. A shadow. Massive. Moving against the rising sun. Then another's. And another's. And another's. The silence broke. Not with sound. But with realization. They're coming, someone whispered from the walls. The first roar followed. It rolled across the land like thunder. Deep, ancient, powerful, and then the sky filled. Wings, hundreds of them. No, thousands. They blotted out the sun, turned morning into twilight, cast shadows that stretched across the entire city. Dragons, not ones, not a handful, a host, ancient, massive, unstoppable. The city erupted into chaos. Close the gates. Arm the defenses. Get the children inside. Panic spread. Vast, wild, uncontrolled. Because this was not something you fought. This was something you survived. If you were lucky. The magistrate didn't move. He stood still, watching. Gods, he whispered. The man remained where he was. Still, calm, as if he had been expecting this. The dragons descended. Not all at once. They circled first. Slow, deliberate. A storm gathering. Then, one broke away. Larger than the rest. Brighter. Burning. She landed outside the city walls. The impact shook the ground. Dust rose. Stone cracked. The gates trembled. And when the dust settled, she stood there. The dragon, but not the one they had seen before. Not broken. Not chained. Not kneeling. This was something else. Her scales burned like living flame, each one catching the light of the rising sun and reflecting it in waves of crimson and gold. Her wings stretched wide, vast, and powerful, the air itself bending beneath their presence. Her eyes, bright, clear, alive, and behind hers, other dragons landed, one by ones, until the horizon itself seemed alive with them. An army. No, a judgment. The gates of Verlian opened. Slowly, carefully, because keeping them closed was meaningless. The magistrate stepped forward. Not as a leader. Not as a defender. As someone who understood. And the man followed, Together they walked out to meet the storm. The dragon lowered her head slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. "You are here," she said. Her voice rolled like distant thunder. The man nodded. "I am." She studied him. "You stood," she said. "Oh yes." "You bled." "Oh yes." "You did not turn away." "No." Silence. Then she turned toward the city. Her wings shifted. The air trembled. "You denied me my wages," she said. Her voice carried over the walls, through the streets, into every corner of Verlians. "You starved my children." The words burned. The people trembled. "You raised your hand against one who defended me." The overseer collapsed to his knees. I didn't." But his words meant nothing, because truth did not need defense. The dragon stepped forward. Each step cracked the earth. Fear spread like fire. Because this was retribution. Ancient. Inevitable. The man stepped forward. Just one step. But it was enough. "This is not justice," he said. The words seemed small. Against everything. Against her. Against them. But they held. The dragon paused. Her head turned. "You would stop me?" she asked. The question was not angry. "Not yet." The man shook his head. "No," he said, "but I would guide you." A murmur rippled through the dragons above. Because no one spoke to them like that. "Guide," she repeated. The man nodded. "They were wronged," he said, "but not all of them." He gestured to the city. "There are those who knew," he said, "those who looked away, those who feared to act." His gaze hardened. "And those who suffered beside you." Silence. The dragon's eyes shifted. Looking, saying, "Not just the powerful, not just the guilty. Everyone's." "Then what do you ask?" she said. The man took a breath. "Pay what is owed," he said. A pause. "To you, another, and to all who were treated like tools." The words spread. Through the air. Through the city. Through the dragons. Because this was something new. Not revenge. Justice. The dragon turned. To the overseer. He trembled. "Pay your debts," she said. "Yes, yes, anything. And everything." The word struck like a hammer. And he understood. This was not mercy. This was balance. The dragons above shifted. Watching. Waiting. And the city changed. Not in fires. Not in destruction. But in truth. Contracts rewritten. Chains broken. Voices heard. Because one humans refused to look away. The dragon lowered her head. To him, a gesture no one had ever seen. Not submission. Respect. "You gave me more than wages," she said. The man shook his head. "I gave you what you were owed." She studied him. Then smiled. A dragon's smile. Fierce. Proud. "And we will remember," she said. The sky roared. Not in anger, but in promise. Because humans were small. Fragile. Short-lived. But sometimes, they stood where no one else would. And when they did, even dragons listened. The end.